I started an Amazon FBA business, which basically means I made my own branded product and listed it for sale on Amazon. Out of all the businesses in the online space I've tried before, this is the most hands-off, most passive, and just overall the most attractive one to me. Imagine running a Shopify e-commerce store without having to worry about order fulfillment or customer support. That's basically what this is because Amazon handles all that for you. And that's why I really wanted to try it out. So I launched my own product, which is this, a magnetic neck mount for phones and action cameras. It's used to record first-person POV shots. And as of December, I have officially had my first profitable month, making $4,700 in revenue and $228 in profit. Not much, but this technically does make me profitable, so I have enough credibility to make a YouTube video about it now. And sell a course. That's how it works, right? No, I'm just kidding. But after trying to make it in e-commerce for years now and failing every single time, this positive sign feels amazing to see. And I'm just trying to share what I've learned. So how did I find the product? How did I make it profitable? And what's next for it? Let's dive in, shall we? First of all, if you're completely new to the game, I didn't invent this or anything. I saw one in the market that was like it and I changed it up a bit. But I knew the product needed to meet certain criteria before I started looking. One quick search on YouTube will tell you basically everything you need to know for FBA product criteria. Everyone essentially uses the same framework here. And yet I still managed to mess this up somehow. But in case you don't know what it is, let's go over it quickly. The product can be seasonal. Not saying you can't make seasonal products work, it's just harder for a beginner. It cannot be trendy. Trends come to an end. So it has to have a solid use case that will last for years to come. It can't be patented. This one is pretty obvious. You would get sued and Amazon would take your listing down, so don't do it. Check ahead of time. The competition has to be low. Hard to make it as a new player in competitive spaces unless you have a huge budget. I mean, try selling an established product like chairs. Unless your chair is really unique somehow, it probably won't work. You gauge the competition by the average number of reviews the products have. The less, the better. The arbitrary number I would give for this if I had to is 300. 300 average reviews or less on a product is pretty good. The demand has to be there. So this means there has to be enough search volume. What is enough search volume? Well, it depends on the competition. 1,000 searches on the main keyword per month with only 2 competitors is probably a lot better than 4,000 searches per month on the main keyword with like 300 competitors. So it's hard to give a set number, but if I had to say something, aim for 3,000. 3,000 searches per month on the main keyword or more is pretty good. I have to be somewhat familiar with the product. Imagine I was trying to sell niche plumbing equipment when I don't know anything about plumbing. It will probably lead to a bad product with bad advertising angles. Hard to know if your product is good if you barely understand what it does in the first place. Luckily for me, my product was pretty easy to understand. Lastly, and most important of all, the profit margin has to be good. On top of your cost of goods and shipping, Amazon will charge you plenty of fees for each sale. The average market price that it sells for must be one where there has to be enough left over for me after all those deductions. There is an Amazon fee calculator you can use to make sure the math is mathing here, but try to aim for at least $15 in profit per unit and ideally a 30% or greater profit margin. None of this is set in stone, by the way. I'm sure there are people who have made it work without following these. I'm just telling you what I do here. So knowing all that, where did I look? Helium 10, Jungle Scout, Exploding Topics, and where I actually found it, Amazon Movers and Shakers, which is free. But if you want to get the average reviews and search volume, you're gonna need either Helium 10 or Jungle Scout, so there is no way out of paying for those, at least initially. Once I found the product on Movers and Shakers, I immediately got to work. Negotiated with suppliers, ordered samples to my house, made a corporation, got a trademark. Basically, I did all the back-end stuff that's required before I could even make a listing on Amazon. If I go through all this stuff here in this video, it would at least be like an hour long. So I'll include here one of the videos that I used to help me figure this stuff out. Now, I would love to say that it was just peaches and roses once I started, but that was not the case. I made mistakes. What were those mistakes? Well, the first one was the product choice. Looking back on it, my product choice was not the greatest. It wasn't even good, actually. When I first saw this product, there was only one other competitor selling it. They were making money. The profit margin was $13, and I thought I hit the jackpot with this, especially because I was so early. But what I realized is there is such a thing as being too early.
How are you coming fast? Why are you coming fast?
What ended up happening is the space got competitive quickly after, and lots of new sellers joined in. What these new sellers did is to compete with one another, they dropped the average selling price down to a point where it was barely even profitable to compete anymore. They made it work by just ordering huge quantities to get their single product cost down, but as someone who doesn't have that kind of budget, I have to get the product for a lot more with my smaller quantities, but I still have to compete with them in terms of selling price. So the margins were just ruined because of this.
Oh man, you're just ruining it. Look at my lips, you're ruining it.
This made me realize two things. Being extremely early can backfire, and profit margins are insanely important. Mistake number 2. Product quality. When I got the samples for this delivered to my house, I didn't check it enough, or more specifically, I didn't pressure test it. So while the product worked, give it enough movement, enough shake, and it will fall apart. Now this was a very easy fix too, but by the time I realized it, the products were already on their way to Amazon, so it was way too late. How did I miss something so obvious? Couldn't tell you.
Today I feel disabled.
Not only did this put me at risk for bad reviews, but I also couldn't utilize Amazon Vine reviews because they would probably, rightfully, tear me apart. Now this is bad as it is, but why it was extra bad was because Amazon gives all new listings something called a honeymoon period, a time frame in the beginning where they push your listing more than usual. It's pretty important to utilize this and not let it go to waste. But when having no reviews or only bad reviews, it's gonna go to waste. And that's pretty much exactly what happened with me. All because I didn't check for one simple mistake. But this wasn't even my worst mistake. That was mistake number 3. My favorite one. I took a bad piece of advice and did something called an aggressive launch strategy. This means I priced my product at break even, undercutting everyone's price, and I was spending a ton on ads too, just to increase my sales velocity so I can also increase my organic ranking. The plan here was to get my listing to page 1, and this would make sense if I had the type of inventory units required for page 1, but when only having 300 units in stock, this made no sense at all. I sold out in a week and a half. And in case you don't know, running out of inventory on Amazon is a big no-no. This means that all the organic ranking, all the money that I sacrificed to get it, it basically all just went to waste. I would now have to start over when my second batch of units would come with no honeymoon period and no organic ranking. So I did all that for absolutely nothing. The lesson to be learned here is unless you're starting off with a really big amount of inventory units, which you shouldn't be as a beginner anyways, don't do an aggressive launch strategy. Do a normal launch strategy and try and be profitable from the start. Now, despite all those mistakes, I still somehow managed to make this product profitable. How did I do that? The first thing was differentiation. When looking at all the different listings of this product, mine's stands out. I can't say exactly why, otherwise you would find the listing, but aesthetically speaking, I made sure it was different than all my other competitors and looked unique. The second way I differentiated was by making the product structurally sturdier. I learned my lesson from my first bad batch of units that I ordered, and on the second one, I made sure to fix it. My product is now not only sturdy compared to before, but it's also sturdier than my competitors' products. And my customers seem to agree because a lot more of them keep the product on average, which gave me this badge on my listing. The third way I differentiated was by including extra items that come with the product, which give it extra features. Now, this wasn't completely unique to me. A lot of other competitors are doing this as well, but it's still something worth noting. And all of these differentiations paid off because my product has a good rating. And out of all the different listings, mine's is one of the highest rated ones. So make it look different, product, make it build better, and those will translate into good reviews, which will likely make your product successful. But differentiation wasn't the only thing that made this profitable. The second thing that helped was having videography skills. I've been on YouTube for years now, and learning how to make videos comes with the territory. I use those skills to make a good promotional product video, which I put on my listing, and I also made it as its own video advertising campaign, which is actually one of my most profitable campaigns, having a 27% ACoS and 3.5 ROAS. And speaking of advertising, the last thing that made this profitable, and probably the most important, was meeting someone who could teach me about Amazon PPC, which is Amazon's advertising. As a complete beginner, learning this is kind of hard, I'm not gonna lie. I watched a lot of YouTube videos and I even took a course on it, but the thing that helped the most by far was meeting someone who already knows about it that taught me. When I was doing all this, I went on an Amazon FBA Discord server and started asking questions to a few people. One of those people was nice enough to help me. His name is Matt, and he has been doing this for a lot longer than me and is a lot more profitable than me. He actually started his own YouTube channel, so if you want to watch videos about FBA from someone who knows his stuff, I really suggest checking them out. But the lesson in all this is network. Networking is huge. Now, if you know anything about Amazon FBA, you would know that a 5% profit margin is not good. There are products out there with 20, even 30% profit margins after all costs, and I believe I found a few. So the next step for me is to sell out of the inventory of this product completely, take that money and use it to start a second product. Coincidentally, I just received the sample for that second product today in the mail. So we'll see how this goes. I'll keep you updated.